Welcome everybody to Kia Koutou, welcome to students, welcome to whānau. My name is Jenny Matthews and I am the Deputy Principal with responsibility for curriculum here at Epsom Girls Grammar School. Could we turn the mic down just a tad? I'm getting a bit of feedback. Thank you. And it's really my pleasure, my great pleasure, to be hosting you for our Cambridge Dual Qualifications Pathways evening. So we have many experts joining me on stage tonight to make sure you leave here feeling confident and energised to make a well-informed choice for your young person. We will take questions at the end, so please hold them until then. And first, to welcome you formally and frame for us what this dual pathway opportunity is, I'd like to introduce our principal, Mrs. Brenda McNaughton.
Tēnā koutou and greetings. As said, my name is Brenda McNaughton, Principal here at Epsom Girls Grammar School, and we're delighted that we were able to announce that we will be offering students and parents the opportunity of choice from 2026 to gain their qualifications in either our National Qualification New Zealand, NCEA, or through Cambridge International Qualifications. This is not a decision made lightly here at Epsom Girls Grammar School. And we want to reassure all of our parents and our community that having choice for our young people perfectly aligns with who we are as a school and our why. Epsom Girls Grammar School has always been a school that takes girls' education seriously. Since our opening as a villa back in 1917, the headmistress in her speech said, "We will be a school that takes girls' education seriously." That has not changed. It is also a school that has for generations sought to create an environment that grows women of great character. Again, that has not changed. We take girls' education seriously by ensuring that students are exposed to a rigorous academic program. They have the supports they need to be successful with their learning and have opportunities to achieve their and their parents' aspirations beyond school. In 2024, so last year, the school board was consulting with students, parents and staff to inform strategic planning, and one question they asked was how could the school best support our students or parents or whoever the audience was, how could the school support them to achieve their academic aspirations? The highest response, and it was consistent for both students and parents, was for the school to offer a dual qualification pathway. During lunchtime last year, I remember walking around the grounds and a new Year 9 came running up to me and said, "Miss, I'm loving my time here at Epsom. I've joined this group and this group," and she rattled off a whole lot of groups that she had already enjoyed. She said, "I've made friends with a whole lot of girls in my subject classes and also these groups, and I love it here. But my dad is going to pull me out in Year 11 because he wants me to do Cambridge. And can you please," she begged me, "can you please look into it for the school?" And I said to her, "Look, we can't make any promises. We have to make sure that the decisions made by the board are well informed and not just based on one person." But I said, "Yep, we'll absolutely look into that." After all of the feedback that the board received, they tasked the senior leaders of our school with the job of investigating the possibility of offering Cambridge. We know that we have exceptional teachers, and you'll hear from some of those tonight. And many of our teachers have led in the development, marking and moderation of our national curriculum and its assessment through NCEA. Our NCEA programs, especially in the technology and arts areas, are national, if not world leading. Last year we also achieved more English scholarships than we have in a number of years. And last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I went down to Wellington as one of our students was awarded the only secondary school student in the country with the Prime Minister's Future Scientist Award. Our students do exceptionally well through the NCEA pathway. We also have a number of our teachers who have already taught Cambridge at various schools in New Zealand and also abroad. So we know we have exceptional teachers. Across our school and beyond their study with us, we do have students excelling in their learning from from full ride scholarships at Princeton and the University of Tennessee, and scholarships to study at the University of Auckland and Canterbury and in Otago, many other New Zealand tertiary providers. Our girls do go on to pursue their dreams. Our decision to offer Cambridge then was not because of any deficiency with NCEA, but because in a day and age where there are no glass ceilings for women, girls deserve to have a choice. They deserve to be treated with the respect that all women expect. The right to know their own whakapapa, where they're from, the right to know honestly where they're at right now, their strengths but also their gaps, and to self-determine their next steps, to achieve their own aspirations in learning and in life. We have exceptional subject experts and we have robust learning programs. So we want our girls to have choice in how they are assessed and how they are credentialed for their learning while they are here at Epsom. So starting in 2026, and you'll hear more details shortly from Ms Matthews and the rest of the team, Epsom Girls will be offering a pilot group of next year's Year 11 students the opportunity to study and be assessed against IGCSE for Cambridge. In future years, we'll monitor the progress of these offerings and expand or adjust programs as needed, but that's normal how we operate with all of our courses across the school. We are confident that our girls will step up to the high expectations of learning programs in whichever qualification pathway they choose, and we can reassure students and parents that subject experts across our school will ensure that quality programs continue to be offered our students in either NCEA or in Cambridge, as resourcing for current courses will continue to be generous in 2026 and beyond. So thank you so much, per Angusta et Augusta. Thank you, Miss.
Amazing, thank you. So, with that in mind, from 2026, Epsom Girls Grammar School will continue to offer our full NCEA qualifications pathway, and will be adding the option for students to select a Cambridge qualification pathway instead. Initially, this will be limited to a small group of approximately 60 students from our current Year 10 cohort who will take part in a pilot. We expect the majority of our students to continue with the NCEA pathway, which has always promoted exceptional outcomes for Epsom Girls Grammar students. The board's decision to run a Cambridge pilot has introduced choice for our community, and hopefully this enhances our students' ability to be agentic in their education and pathways through and beyond school. So, my aim tonight is to outline for you what a Cambridge qualification pathway is, the shape of the 2026 pilot, to give you some vision for the long-term structure of the dual pathway at Epsom Girls Grammar School, and to help you feel empowered to make a good choice around the qualification pathway that will best work for your child. I will not be telling you which pathway is better. Both our NCEA and Cambridge qualifications are academic and challenging pathways to university study, both in New Zealand and overseas. The difference is one of content and assessment method, which means for some students, a Cambridge qualification might be a good fit. So what is a Cambridge qualifications pathway? It is a globally recognised qualification, and it's part of the Cambridge University Press and Assessment Group, which is a not-for-profit. It is a qualification pathway that, in New Zealand, works towards university study at the end of compulsory schooling. It is worth keeping in mind that NCEA is also a wonderful pathway into university, both in New Zealand and abroad. The Cambridge system works with a high degree of clarity. They talk about alignment as a kind of core concept. And alignment stems from knowing what we want students to learn, understanding how we will know that learning has happened, and encouraging teaching and learning approaches that support it. The Cambridge curriculum program has as an aim developing subject knowledge, conceptual understanding, and higher order thinking skills. They also speak about learning to learn, And as a system, the Cambridge pathway aims to build responsible and independent learners who are confident in their knowledge. Here at Epsom Girls Grammar School, we are introducing the upper secondary and the Cambridge Advanced Qualifications. At Year 11, students undertaking a Cambridge pathway will do an IGCSE qualification. That's the International General Certificate of Secondary Education. This is a school-leaving qualification in many parts of the world. For our students, that will mean pursuing 5 IGCSE subjects: maths, English, biology, chemistry, and physics for our initial pilot students, and 1 additional Year 11 class. This additional Year 11 class is an opportunity for students to maintain a language, to pursue health and PE, or music, or any other particular passion that they have. In Year 12, they will then do the AS courses, the Advanced Subsidiary courses, and they will take 5 subjects. A minimum of 4 of these subjects will be at AS level, with the option of taking an NCEA Level 2 paper or a Year 11 course in addition. At Year 13, they will do the A level, the advanced level courses. A minimum of 3 A levels must be completed, and students will also take either AS or NCEA subjects to increase the breadth of their learning. So, one of the questions that's come through very strongly from our community is, how does the Cambridge pathway work for university and university entrance? The Cambridge qualification is well recognised by universities, both in New Zealand and overseas. It is worth keeping in mind that the NCEA pathway also gives students access to university, and we have so many successful alumni who have studied both in New Zealand and overseas. Some overseas universities will recognise the Cambridge qualification more easily. So I'm going to talk about university entrance in New Zealand, specifically to the University of Auckland, which is the university in New Zealand with the kind of most stringent entry requirements. If you are thinking about an overseas university, you need to do your research about both the requirements of the institution you are interested in and the municipality that governs it. This information is very readily available on university websites. But for New Zealand, the first step for university is you need university entrance, you need UE. And to attain this through a Cambridge pathway, a student must first gain a basic standard of numeracy, which is a minimum of a D grade in IGCSE mathematics. They must have a basic standard of literacy, which is a minimum of an E grade in AS level English. They must maintain a general standard of a D grade or better in 3 different syllabus groups, and receive a minimum of 120 UCAS points. So you can see the point system broken down there, what the grades at AS and A level would earn. And I'm just going to give you a scenario. So to get, for example, 120 points, you could get a B in English AS level for 50 points, a D in physics AS level for 30 points, and now we're up to 80, a D in maths at AS level for another 30 points, we're up to 110, and then a B in biology at AS level for 50 points, we're up to 160, and we have our UE with 40 points to spare. So for most students under this system, they will gain UE in Year 12, and then they'll use their Year 13 to improve their rank score and gain access to courses that they desire. What you can see on the screen is some common courses that our students might consider after school and the rank scores for the Cambridge qualification. Again, this is for the University of Auckland, and this information is very readily available on their website. A few parents specifically reached out to ask about biomedical science, and you can see that requires a rank score of 310. That's the same rank score as is required for a Bachelor of Engineering. Most conjoint bachelor's degrees require 230 UCAS points, and a commerce degree requires 170. So the University of Auckland recognises the Cambridge qualification and is upfront about the sorts of grades needed to access their different programs. So Epsom Girls Grammar School is going to offer 2 pathways that lead to university entrance and exceptional outcomes both at school and beyond. But there are differences between NCEA and a Cambridge education. So shortly I'm going to hand over to my subject experts and they will unpack the specific content differences for you, but some broad strokes can also be useful in making a choice about what qualification will best suit your child. So first, Cambridge is an exams-based system, which is a contrast with NCEA where students can accrue credits gradually over the course of a year. This means that if your child has the capacity to learn to thrive under the pressure of exams, the Cambridge pathway might really suit them. It will suit students who are highly independent and motivated. Secondly, both NCEA and Cambridge stretch students to high levels of academic attainment. Talking to teachers, one thing they have observed is that in many subjects, an excellence in NCEA is about originality and abstract thinking, where Cambridge is more focused on the mastery of content. So if you hold that in mind and you think your child might really enjoy a Cambridge qualification pathway, then you can choose to apply to be part of our pilot in 2026. And there are some things to be aware of here. So in 2026, we are planning to take around 60 students into a pilot, and they will all study English, maths, biology, chemistry, and physics. It is our vision that by 2027, we will start to expand this offering, but the offering is unlikely to expand for the initial cohort, even as they move into AS and A-level. So you have to want to study those subjects. It will be rigorous and academically challenging course, and students signing up to the pilot should aim to undertake their full course of study to the end of year 13 in the Cambridge qualification pathway. If things are not working for a particular student, then students will be able to move from the Cambridge pathway into an NCEA pathway at the end of a year only. But we will be very strongly discouraging that move. So our long-term vision here at Epsom Girls Grammar School is that we have a broad-based and rigorous curriculum that effectively prepares students to step into either an NCEA or Cambridge pathway with equal confidence. Our reason for starting with a small-scale pilot is that at this time, there are some differences in the content taught in the New Zealand curriculum and what is needed to succeed in the Cambridge qualification pathway. So, if you sign up for the pilot, you are also applying to be part of an acceleration program that will run for the remainder of the 2025 academic year. You will stay in your regular Year 10 classes and be expected to continue to work hard in those classes. And in addition, you will be undertaking an independent study program requiring a commitment of around 3 hours per week. This is needed to bridge the content gap and guarantee success in the IGCSE Year 11 course. As a student, I would have found that exciting, but it's important to put that in front of you. Yeah. So, there are also some financial ramifications. Our NCEA program is freely available to students, but there are costs associated with the Cambridge qualification that will need to be carried by families. Having said that, and very seriously, if financial constraints are a barrier to your child's access to the Cambridge pathway, there is financial support available, and that will be given on a case-by-case basis. You just need to reach out for it. So you will see on my chart that this year we estimate a $550 charge to cover the costs of textbooks, workbooks, and an Education Perfect subscription as part of that acceleration program. Those textbooks and workbooks will continue and be used all the way through next year. We're purchasing the books this year so that we can start getting across the content. From 2026 onwards, there will also be charges related to the examination entry fees. These will fluctuate based on on exchange rate and also yearly costing updates. So what you see up here are close estimates based on the current costs, but are definitely subject to some change. For textbooks in good condition, we will facilitate a resale scheme within the school. Okay. So, to become one of our 60 pilot students, we are going to have 2 hurdles in place. First, you will fill in an expression of interest that will be checked by our pastoral team and our Year 10 teachers. If you are approved by those teams, you will then undertake some study in English, maths, physics, biology, and chemistry as part of our acceleration program, and you will sit a test on that study in term 3. We had initially intended to give an entry test as the sole criteria for entering the pilot, but we have decided instead that having students undertake some learning and then testing that learning is a more accurate gauge of what we're looking for in our students. We're not looking for the top academic performers currently. We're really looking for students who have the resilience and the ability to work hard over this coming year and into next year. That's what we want to test, not just what they know right now. So by giving study and then assessing mastery, we're really assessing the qualities that will make a student successful in our pilot. So what you see here is a timeline for being selected into the Cambridge Qualifications pilot. So tomorrow morning, an expression of interest form will be circulated to all Year 10 families, and this will remain open for 1 week until next Friday at 5 p.m. We will then notify applicants of the acceptance of their expression of interest on the 17th of June, and we will begin that first round of independent learning work on the 18th of June. There will be a meeting at school for successful applicants. We will assess mastery of that learning on the week of the 21st of July, and we will notify candidates of their success by the 28th of July. And payment of an estimated $550 will be made to secure a position in the pilot if one is offered. So, thank you. Hopefully that gives you some clarity around what the Cambridge pathway is in the big scheme and the nature of the pilot. I would now like to welcome to the stage our Learning Area Director for Science, Jo Rainey, to start the conversation around the subject-specific content of the Cambridge pathway. So we're going to hear from Jo, and then we'll hear from teachers in biology, physics, English, and maths, and then at the end of that we'll open for a Q&A. Okay. It's just this one.
Kia ora. I'm Jo Rainey. I am the Learning Area Director for Sciences and the Head of Chemistry. I'm originally from the UK, so I have studied these subjects in the UK and taught them early on in my teaching career. So, for all sciences, there is a core syllabus and a supplementary syllabus. So our plan is to teach all of it, the core stuff and the supplementary. And the plan would be for the majority of students to take the final exams to be the extended exams which cover everything. So you can see the content for chemistry. The first few topics are what we would cover in our Year 11 courses. So that's what we currently cover. And then the other content that will need to be covered for IGCSE chemistry is predominantly what we would cover or some of what we would cover in Level 2 chemistry. So you can see that there are some advanced concepts in the IGCSE course compared to our current Year 11 course. And then these are the assessments on the right-hand side. And again, the assessments will follow a similar pattern for all of the sciences. There's a multiple choice paper, and the multiple choice papers do require high-level thinking. Some of the options can be quite close, so it does require that deep thinking skills. There's a written paper as well, the theory written paper. And then there is a kind of practical exam. We've been recommended to do the alternative to practical. So students will learn practical skills throughout the course, but then they will be assessed via a paper exam on those practical skills. There might also be that you can see that there is a large amount of content here, and looking at, we've investigated how other schools run their programs, and there will be a very strong likelihood that students will have to self-learn one of the more straightforward topics in the Term 2 holidays. So this year we're going to start some preparation for the students so they can start getting into some of the content. And we're going to do what is covered. There are junior science topics that they will have had some familiarity with this year, but we are going to go into the deeper Year 11 content on those topics. So it's good, there's not something completely new. They will be familiar to them, but then we will go into greater depth on those topics. We're going to for chemistry, we're going to provide a set of notes and answers, so students can read the work, do some problem work, then self-mark it and critique it themselves, and then that will eventually finish off with a test. Okay, thank you very much. I'll hand over to Mrs. Shagufta Khan, who is the head of physics.
Good evening. I'm Shagufta Khan. I'm head of the Department of Physics here. So physics course, if you look on this slide, we are already doing some topics in present year 11 course, and they include mechanics, which will have measurement and motion, also forces, balanced forces and unbalanced forces, about energy, work and power and pressure, and electricity topic. And in that electricity topic, we go into quite depth about static electricity, DC electricity, and electromagnetism. But for the IGCSE course next year, there will be other contents, which you can see on the left hand of the slides. And some of those topics we cover presently in Year 12 physics, but not to the same in Year 12 physics. There we cover into more depth as compared to what these are over here. So adding forces at right angles, momentum, strokes and levers, center of mass and momentum, and especially the heat energy topic, in which we look at the kinetic theory, gas laws, heat capacity, latent heat capacity. And then in electricity, other than what we cover in year present NCA course for year 11, we also cover capacitors, digital electronics, electronic systems, and also a little bit of atomic physics and radioactivity. And on the right-hand side, you can see the tests. These are similar to the chemistry tests. So there will be multiple choice tests. There will be long questions tests. And again, during this course, students will be doing lots of experiment and investigations, but the test will be based on the skills which they gain during those learning those practical investigations, and they will be assessed. And all these ones are externally assessed. Okay, to prepare them this accelerated course this year, students will be working on 3 topics, which are wave properties, light, heat, energy. So they've done a little bit of light topic in year 9, and the heat energy topic in year 9, but we will be going into much deeper to give a better understanding of what they will need to be learning in year 11 next year. And again, as was described, Ms. Matthews, that during the different cycles of learning that they will be doing, we will be providing them with notes, some exercises, hand-on activities that students will be learning on their own. So overall, what we can say is that IGCSE course has got broader contents. It's exam-focused, internationally standardized, and it will suit academically kind of strong students who are actually resilient and are willing to work harder. NCA also is more flexible. It includes internal assessments, whereas IGCSE will be all externally assessed. And NCA level allows for broader learning and different learning styles. Now, so both courses have their own strengths, and it's up to this kind of what suits the learner, what her goals are, that they will select either NCA or the IGCS. Okay, thank you. This one.
Cute. I wish I could get a photo of you getting a photo. Was it my dog? It's the dog you like, isn't it? That's Nalu. She's a Hungarian Vizsla. I'm Rachel Heaney. Kia ora. I'm head of biology here. Tolofalava Malolele. Mahala Bulavanaka, and welcome to Eggs. I have worked here for 26 years. It is a pleasure to be here every day. I have not taught the Cambridge system, but I have done my homework, seeing as we are going to be doing it. And so I did my homework all last holidays, catching up with a whole lot of old colleagues and friends that are teaching dual pathway in other schools throughout the North Island. My dog also was a part of that, and so she had her photo taken reading this, and both pathways are fantastic, so I thought I really should show the textbook for NCA as well. We are well resourced at the school for NCA. We are very, very successful, and we plan to be exactly the same for the Cambridge pathway. So, as you heard from the two other heads of sciences, it's an exam based, and that makes a big difference. My daughter is in year 13. I said hello to her as she was taking a tour today. She was mortified because I told all the parents that's my daughter, because I was so proud of her being year 13. It is different. There is not a better system. It's very important, and the more homework I do, the more I see that it's absolutely true. All biology is interesting. That's a given. So we love teaching biology here. There's 10 biologists, and we're like, just give us some bio, we're going to teach it. But it is going to be taught differently, and the fact that there are no internal assessments, that is a very different aspect. As far as the syllabus, you can see there what we currently offer in our Year 11 program. We do a lot of microbiology, and students, well, the whole public are really microbiologists now post-pandemic, but it's a really important topic, I believe, in Year 11. And we do a lot of genetics, because who doesn't? It's core to all biology. The program that we will be offering in the pilot is very broad. Unlike the other sciences, it's not stemming from the junior course, but it is just going to be new and interesting every day. So there is a lot to learn. As you have heard from Ms. Matthews, it is about mastery of the content, which is why students do need to spend a lot of time themselves, and they will be expected to get the textbook, because that's really support for them. There is also support from websites, and of course they can always get little study groups going on at your house as well. So you'll see the huge range of topics here on the left. Like the other sciences, we would be suggesting 2 topics that will be in the exam that students start learning in their own time, for if we run out of time, and if we don't, then we would go over them again. But all of my ex-colleagues who teach this, they all do say that is a good idea. We will also be doing the alternative to practical paper. There will be practicals in class. There will be online videos of us doing the practicals. We will be ready for if we have time. We will be ready for if we don't have time. But they certainly will be prepared for the exam, and they'll be familiar with the practicals, whether or not we have done it as a class, as a demo, or as individuals. Just another little picture there. So we will be looking, I've already got ready to go once we get underway, some topics that you'll be learning. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do to assess people on what they are prepared to put into learning, because some people might say, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that, and then that is absolutely fine, and this is not for you. They are two good pathways and they are different pathways. As I've said here, there are lots of support out there, but one of my friends who teaches down in Tauranga, she said just be very, very honest with the parents that it's a fascinating course and it takes a lot of effort to learn it, and if you're prepared to do that, then you would be successful in this pathway. If you think NCA is what you want to do and do well, then we can get you successful in that pathway as well. And moving on to English.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Amanda Vaughan tōku ingoa. My name's Amanda Vaughan and I'm the Learning Area Director for English, and I'm here to run through a few of the differences between our current Year 11 course and the IGCSE English Literature program. So you'll have noticed that the difference there is actually in the name. Our subject at Year 9 through 13 is called English. That's also the domain for the NCEA subject associated with it. In Cambridge, there are two subjects, English Literature and English Language. They're separated out. Possibly in the fullness of time, once we're running a full Cambridge program, we might offer both, and students might have the option to choose two of their subjects being English essentially. But for now, we're offering English Literature as opposed to that broader course. Nope, not bio. That way, okay. So currently, our Year 11 course is a very holistic, theme-based course. Students study a wide range of literature, including New Zealand texts, and they also develop a range of skills, including writing in several different genres, speaking and visual presentation. Like most Year 11 courses at EGS, we assess using school-based assessments throughout the year, and we do one NCEA standard, which in Year 11 is an external exam based on unfamiliar texts. So the English Literature IGCSE is different, as with the other subjects, because it's exam-based. There aren't assessments throughout the year. We, of course, will practice the skills needed throughout the year, but the only assessment that counts, so to speak, is in an exam situation, and that assessment is limited to writing essays on literary texts. So that is quite a big difference for students to get their heads around and decide whether they want that literature essay-based focus or they enjoy the broader focus of the current English program. A small thing to keep in mind too is that being a BYOD school, our students are very used to digital assessments, and in the Year 11 course, most of our assessments, including the NCEA standard, are done digitally. But at least in the initial stages of Cambridge, the assessments are likely to be handwritten. Okay, so what the students will actually study is a collection of 15 poems. These are a mix of classical and contemporary poets, but they're set by Cambridge, not by us, and therefore there are no New Zealand texts unless Cambridge happens to select one from this part of the world, which is not highly likely. There's also a novel study. There are set texts that rotate, so the school has a selection for each year that they can offer, and we've decided that next year we'll be doing the novel To Kill a Mockingbird. They also do a drama text, a play. There's a range of options that we can choose from, and we're likely to do a Shakespeare play as that. And then the fourth thing is unseen or unfamiliar texts, where students respond in an exam situation to texts that they haven't seen before. And that's also something that we do right throughout our programs. So overall, we feel confident that our Year 10 students are already developing the skills they need to be successful at IGCSE as well as at NCEA. And the main difference that we will need to work on is the style of written responses and the types of questions they respond to in those exams. But it doesn't seem to be quite as big a jump as perhaps for some of the other subjects where the content is significantly different. However, there is a greater volume of text to get through in a year, and we will need to move at quite a fast pace when we essentially only have 3 terms to get through a lot of literature. So we do need students who are prepared to read independently. And I really would say, if you don't enjoy reading, perhaps have a think about whether it's the course for you, because there will be reading, reading and more reading. So to assist students in forming the habits of success, we will be asking you to read this year, to read an extended text and write a response, and to do some short response work on some of the poems that will be taught in more detail next year. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Anna Kwan. I am a teacher at Epsom Girls, maths teacher at Epsom Girls Grammar School. I've been at the school for more than 20 years as well. So I'll be talking about IGCSE mathematics. As you can see on the slide, the NCEA is based on achievement standards, whereas IGCSE are fixed syllabus. So we are teaching fixed content. The assessment method for NCEA is a mixture of internal and external standards, whereas for IGCSE, it's just at the end of the year, you sit an exam. The grading for NCEA is, we're used to it, is achieve merit excellence, whereas for IGCSE is percentages. For NCEA, we are allowed to use graphics calculator, whereas for IGCSE, we're not allowed to use graphics calculator, so we're allowed to use scientific calculator. For the content, on the left side is NCEA, and whereas on the right side is the Cambridge topics. For number, is very similar between NCEA and Cambridge. Algebra is fairly similar as well. Now, what's different is geometry. For NCEA, we do angles and Pythagoras, whereas for IGCSE, we do more in-depth vectors. We do vectors and circle theorem, so more in-depth for IGCSE maths. Measurement is fairly similar between NCEA and Cambridge, whereas trigonometry, for NCEA, we do right angle trig, whereas for IGCSE, we have to do non-right angle trig, and that includes sine and cosine rule. Statistics is more involved for NCEA because we do a time series for NCEA, but not for IGCSE. Probability is fairly similar in both NCEA or IGCSE. Okay, the next slide, you can see that for fluency is fairly moderate in NCEA and fairly strong in IGCSE. That means the steps that you need to do to get to your answer. The real world context is quite high in NCEA, whereas IGCSE is less contextual and more abstract. Problem solving is encouraged in both internal and external, whereas IGCSE is more multi-step and abstract. So we'll skip to the next slide. So for IGCSE, these are the content that we do. We're doing number, algebra and graphs, coordinate geometry, which we do not do in NCEA. So in Cambridge, we will do coordinate geometry, and then that's measurement, trigonometry, transformation, and vectors. Again, vectors is something that's new for IGCSE. And probability and statistics is similar to NCEA. For the IGCSE assessment, candidates take two papers, paper 2 and paper 4. The difference is that paper 2 is a non-calculator topic, a non-calculator assessment, say they don't use calculator, whereas paper 4 is calculators allowed. So they use a scientific calculator only. So in preparation for this year, because you can see that the IGCSE course is fairly broad and very in-depth, so candidates will have to do a lot of work this year to get them ready for next year. So they will be expected to do linear and non-linear simultaneous equations, circle theorems, trigonometry, including sine and cosine rule. So they have to do all this during the school holiday this term. As part of the selection process, students will have to set a written test based on this content over here. So what you will be given will be some videos that you have to watch, and then you will have to do the problems that's set for you. The answers will be provided, and then at the end of this, you will do a written test. So we aim to select students who are likely to succeed and who can manage the pace and rigor. So you will have to be a very independent learner and resilient. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. I think listening, the level of work that's already been invested by our learning areas into making sure this pathway is a really successful one is significant. And I hope you can hear there's a lot of passion and interest in taking on this new pathway. But there's also going to be challenges, especially I think for the students. And if you're somebody who's academically minded and you're excited by the idea of challenging and expanded content, and you'd like to do that sort of program, this will be a really, really exciting new opportunity for you. So we're going to open the floor for some questions now. We'll just do a few minutes of questions. We have a roving mic, and then we'll finish up.
Thank you. It's very loud.
It is loud.
Thank you for the overview. Just curious whether you said they can take other subjects, they can do one other subject in year 11.
Yes.
Is it with the timetable, obviously there's going to be restrictions, is that going to restrict any particular subjects? Are there things that we should be mindful that it may exclude?
So yeah, they'll definitely be able to take an additional subject in year 11, and they'll continue to take additional subjects in year 12 and 13 also. In terms of which subjects those can be, there's always restrictions in terms of how things are blocked against each other in the timetable, but no more restrictions than will be with any normal NCA selection process, would be the honest answer. So if they want to take Spanish, probably they can, but if it doesn't quite block, then that might be looking for an alternate route. Oh wow, I just picked that. I picked that out there. But we'll do our best to make sure, because we're going to have at least 2 classes, so there will be some ability to try and make those option lines work for students. Yeah. Any other questions? There's one down there.
Just you said that any student who takes the IGCSE, the expectation is that they'll follow that road, not change back to NCA. What about the other way? They start NCA and they do CSE.
No. So for our Year 10 cohort especially, you'll need to be in this pilot to access the IGCSE. But even into the future, it's unlikely that you'll be able to move from an NCA into a Cambridge pathway partway through.
Kia ora, thanks for that. That's very loud. 2 questions. What are the options, the subject options into year 12 and 13? Do they continue in the same way that would go for, excuse me, year 11? And my second question is broader, and just in terms of how the school is managing resources to ensure that the NCEA pathway isn't disadvantaged in any way by the resources that obviously this takes a significant input, and so that the NCEA pathway is not disadvantaged and those students are not affected.
That's a really great question, thank you. The first thing I'd say is what you've seen tonight in the amazing passion and the work and the resourcing that our teachers have put into this is just a little peek behind the curtains of what is 100% stock standard. This is what this level of thinking and care and resourcing is what every single course at Epsom Girls Grammar School always has. And what we're doing with starting with our pilot is really thinking about how we scale Cambridge in the school appropriately so that we don't disadvantage our NCA pathway as part of that, so that as we scale it, we're ready for that, and that the resourcing is appropriate and equally and ideally shared at the level that it should be. So we will not be in any way disadvantaging our NCA pathways. That's one of our core principles right from the beginning of looking into this. The other question you asked was around the idea of, will there be more options in the future? And there's kind of two answers to that. For this initial cohort, you really do need to be prepared that those 5 subjects you'll be taking will be your subjects and be your options all the way through year 13. Again, that's part of being in the pilot. That's part of our gradual and sustainable scaling of this program. However, we do have a timeline of implementation that goes about 5 years into the future with checkpoints where we're looking at, can we expand the subject offering? Which other learning areas can we bring into this? And we have a really broad-based offering as our absolute aim at Cambridge. Now, I think that will grow over the years in a gradual way. So I do anticipate having more subjects on offer in 2027 for our IGCSE cohort. And maybe there are actually some possibilities for the pilot students. I just don't want to commit to those because we will only grow to them when we're really ready for that. Yeah. Any other questions? There's a few down here.
I was just wondering if the current extension options, such as extension maths, would continue to be available for the students going into year 11 who, if they choose to stay with the NCEA pathway?
So the NCEA pathway is not impacted by the IGCSE being introduced in any way. So current offerings in maths will continue. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the information. I have a couple of questions, please. So the first one is, for the second cohort, will they need also to take the preparing independent study program before they go into level year 11 or not? The second question is, when subject teachers offered the different content or the in-depth content in IG compared to NCEA level 1, are these contents covered in levels 2 and 3 in CEA or not?
Okay.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So with that first question, and correct me if I misunderstood, you sort of asked for the next cohort, so our second cohort coming through, will they still have to take part in an acceleration program to get ready? The answer to that is that right now, I'm not willing to commit to that answer. That's the truth. We are actually undertaking work at the moment and on our teacher-only day tomorrow that considers the knowledge sequencing in our curriculums and aims very strongly and actually eventually to have a really clear ability for students to choose either pathways with confidence at the end of our kind of junior program. Where we will be at the end of next year, I'd hope to say yes, but I don't want to say that in case we still have a few topics we'd like to bridge. The answer to the second question is, so you asked, will all of the content that's covered in the IGCSE pathway eventually be covered in the NCA pathway, maybe over more years? The answer is no. There is content in the IGCSE pathway that is different. So the Cambridge IGCSE AS and A-level pathway, that full sweep of the pathway, that is different and is not necessarily touched in the NCA program. To answer that question really accurately, I'd need to track through each of the different points, but the answer is no, it's not necessarily going to be eventually covered in NCA. Yeah. But there is content in NCA that also is not in the Cambridge program, so that does work in both ways. Yeah.
I was wondering how the NCA credits system would work with the pilot students who choose to take another NCA subject alongside that.
Yeah. So you accrue credits towards an NCA diploma like any other student, but you're unlikely to be earning enough credits to get the qualification. That's the answer. So you'll have that learning in your pocket, and it will give you that broader base, give you that exposure, and it might even be something in some instances that you take into university, but it won't be earning the NCA qualification. You'll be earning the Cambridge qualification. Yeah. Yes?
Are the teachers that are teaching the maths, physics, chemistry, etc., are they also teaching NCEA, or are they now going to focus solely on Cambridge?
No. So the answer to that is our teachers are subject experts, and there's actually a lot of excitement around the new curriculum of Cambridge, and so our teachers will teach across both systems. And it's definitely the aim at the school that even once it scales, our teachers continue to teach across both systems, because they're capable of it and they're excited to do it.
Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi for all your presentations tonight. This is obviously a super exciting opportunity for students who are interested in maths and sciences, but there'll be lots of students who are really interested in arts who don't have this exciting opportunity, may feel like they want to be involved just so they can be part of the action. So how are you going to message that for students of the arts who would really like to do something exciting but they can't?
Yeah, look, very fair. If I was sitting here as a Year 10 student tonight, I would not be taking the IGCSE pathway because I have a Master's in Ancient History, and I would never have ended up there, which was my absolute passion and where I wanted to be, right from a much too nerdy age to mention, if I had chosen this pathway. And that's the nature of a pilot. We've got to start it small so that we can effectively scale it. Eventually, this will be a pathway that suits students with all sorts of, both levels of attainment and all sorts of interests and passions. But for right now, we have to scale it slowly so that we can control its impacts, so that we can know we're ready. And I do feel badly for students who feel closed out of it. However, I would also say we have absolutely country and world leading arts and technology programs at this school. Like, those students are not disadvantaged. It's a bit of FOMO maybe, but overall, they're going to have amazing opportunities, as they already do.
Thank you for the information. I have got a question. So I have heard the lots of independent learning from this the presentation. I just wonder that how Epsom, or what the supporting program Epsom actually thinking to support these the students to be keep up with the baseline the small group, small study group, or the online course or something like that. And then second thing is that there is no assignment, so I just wonder that how parents actually understand our kids, students actually keep up with the curriculum, how we actually support our kids to learn the right the curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, just because there's no formal assessments towards the qualification throughout the year does not mean there will be no assessments. There will be formative assessments ongoing, as there is in the NCA course, and grades for those formative assessments will definitely be being logged in Kmart and reported on through our normal mechanisms to parents. There's also a high degree of clarity in the Cambridge pathway, and that's something that does attract some families to it. So you will be able to look ahead, especially in the maths and sciences, at those big textbooks your child brings home, and you'll be able to continue having those, those conversations and question them and keep on top of their learning through that same method that you might use with NCA. So yeah, we will definitely be having assessments, just not assessments with credits attached. In terms of supporting the learning of students, I think you can already see that in action. So we have looked at the syllabus and we've gone, we don't want to be throwing students into this new thing, cold. We want to give them the chance to gradually step into it. And so we'll be running this acceleration program this year. And while the learning will be independent, the resources and there will be opportunities to touch in with the teachers in the course. And what's really exciting, I think, about this pilot is those 60 kids and these teachers who are in this room right now, they're going to be together substantially for the next 3 years. They're going to get to know each other incredibly well. I was part of a pilot of this nature at another school that I worked in, and that initial cohort and the teachers that taught that initial cohort and the relationships they shared were really, really special and quite unique, just because of the scale and that sense of that being part of something new. So the support will definitely be there. And then we'll have our normal mechanisms, our pastoral check-ins, our tracking of grades, our conversations with parents. None of that will change.
I just had a question about the A level. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
It says that you can take at least 3 A-level subjects. So does that mean that, I was just wondering the maximum, is it like 5? And if you only take 3, is the rest NCEA or something?
So there is no maximum, I suppose, though we'll probably only be offering 5 subjects in the A-level course. Usually at that point, you're in year 13, you've got a really strong eye to university and your life beyond school, and you're choosing your A-level subjects strategically based on what pathway you're specifically entering into. And then you might do 4, you might do 5, or you might choose to broaden out with an NCEA subject as well. So you'll have both options. There's no maximum, but the minimum is 3 because that's what you need for that qualification. And we will be encouraging 4, or, would be encouraging you to take as many as you can feasibly take. Absolutely. Yeah.
I just wonder, how do you merge 2 timetable into one? Because both NCEA and IGCSE, they are totally different. And IGCSE is very theoretical and classroom based. And how students could cope into dual qualification in this case?
So how we'll timetable them and how students will work between the 2 systems?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you're in the IGCSE pathway, your primary goal is to earn that qualification. And that will be the same as you move into AS and A-level. Having access to a broadening option, especially for the pilot students who have such a narrow range of subjects in front of them, is actually about maintaining your child's suite of options and exposure so that they can make sure they're making good choices as they pathway through school. I think they'll work well together. Our teachers are really great subject specialists, and they'll be getting some really interesting and important and life-shaping learning in those NCEA classrooms as well. They are different, but the fact is they have different times of years for things like exams and assessments, and we'll be able to work that through. We'll be careful around that.
Okay, and also I can see this is very focused in science stream. Will there be any opportunity to open an art stream in IGCSE as well?
Not for next year, but in the future, definitely 100%. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I might take one last question and then we'll finish up, but a few of us will stay behind. So if there's any other questions you'd like to bring to us, I'm happy to stay back to answer them, please.
Hello. I do have a question about the requirements to select for the pilot. You said they do have some assessment to be done after a short learning.
Yes.
So what are the other requirements under the table that we need to be aware of as parents? Thank you.
Yeah. So our aim with putting a hurdle in place is, frankly, we want to keep the pilot relatively small so that we're scaling in a manageable way. So we want around 60 students, 2 classes. That's our intent. And we want those students to be well placed to have high levels of success. So we've got the 2 kind of hurdles to accessing it. The first is a pastoral check, and I actually imagine the vast majority of students will come through that without any problems, but that's just making sure teachers who know the students who are applying have gone, yeah, actually that student could step into that. And then from there, we're looking at assessing on learning that they do as part of this little kind of initial hurdle so that we're not disadvantaging anyone. It's sort of an equal playing field. Everyone does the same bit of learning and sits the same assessment. And what we're really testing for, as I said, is not academically top achieving. We're testing for resilience and ability to kind of self-motivate. Yeah. Okay. Look, thank you so much for attending this evening. As I said, I'm happy to stay back, and my subject specialist will also stay back, and we will take a couple more questions. But otherwise, you're very welcome to head off, and thank you so much for your attention.